They thought I was too soft to do anything. And to be honest, for a long time, maybe they were right. I let things slide. I let the jokes pass, even when they stung. I let them borrow money they never paid back. I showed up to every birthday, every graduation, every fake family emergency. I bit my tongue so many times it might as well have been gone. But there comes a point, a moment, when you stop seeing that as kindness and start realizing it's just survival. I remember the exact day it shifted. It was a Sunday. Sunny, warm breeze kind of day that tricks you into thinking everything's all right. My cousin made another soft boy joke at my expense during brunch. My sister laughed, again. My mom said nothing. My dad changed the subject, and I just sat there, sipping my coffee, staring at the condensation on my glass, thinking, they really think I'll never do anything. They truly believe I'll just sit here and take it forever. That was the moment I started writing things down. Dates, times, amounts, screenshots, conversations, passive-aggressive texts, fake emergencies. Every instance of manipulation dressed up as just family stuff. You see, I wasn't trying to get revenge. Not at first. I just wanted a record. Proof that I wasn't crazy. That this wasn't in my head. But the more I wrote, the more I realized something. They weren't just taking advantage of me. They were comfortable doing it. Like it was expected. Like I owed them something. And that's what broke something in me. Not the betrayal, not the mockery, the expectation, the quiet agreement they all had that I'd never push back, that I'd never say enough. So I didn't. Not out loud, not right away. I just kept showing up, kept nodding, kept smiling, and all the while I was building. Quietly, patiently. I started keeping everything in one place. A folder, password protected, backed up 3 times. I started talking to someone, a friend of mine who works in law. Just hypothetical scenarios at first. Then more detailed ones. And still, I never let it show. Because I knew the moment they sensed a shift, they'd circle the wagons. And I wanted them relaxed. Comfortable. I wanted them thinking I was still too soft. I played the long game. I played it well. Then came the tipping point. My uncle called me, frantic. Said he was being sued. Needed cash fast. Said he'd pay me back in 2 weeks. Said, "You're the only one I can trust." So I gave it to him. Not because I believed him, but because I needed one last receipt. And boy, did he give it to me. He never paid it back. Ignored my messages. Avoided me at family functions. Even joked about it once like it was nothing. That was it. The line had been crossed, burned, and buried. I spent the next few weeks finalizing everything. Talked to my lawyer friend. Put the documents together. Cross-checked every detail. And then, I waited. Waited for a quiet Tuesday morning. Nothing special. No birthdays. No holidays. Just another regular day. That's when I sent it. Certified courier. Hand delivery. 1 envelope. No warning. No heads up. Just a clean, professional knock on the porch of the house where most of this had started. They didn't know what was coming. They'd never expected I'd push back. They thought I was too soft. Too scared. Too nice. But that envelope, that changed everything. Inside were the receipts, the proof, the legal intent, the declaration that I would no longer be funding their dysfunction, that I was pulling out of every shared investment, every family obligation, that I was filing for restitution, that I was done. I didn't send it to just one person. I sent it to all of them, individually, personally, one by one. Their phones lit up, their group chat went quiet. The family text thread, once full of jokes and passive digs, went dead silent. And I went for a walk. Just me, my sneakers, and the sound of birds. It was the most peace I'd felt in years. But I knew. The silence wouldn't last. The silence didn't last, not even a full day. By noon, my phone started buzzing. First it was my sister. 4 missed calls. Then a text. "What is this? Are you serious right now?" I didn't reply. Not because I didn't want to, but because I'd already said everything that needed to be said, in black and white. Then my dad called. He never calls me, not unless someone's in the hospital or a bill needs paying. I let it ring. He left a voicemail, voice strained, half angry, half pretending to be calm. "You could have just talked to us. This is extreme. We're family." That word again, family. They used it like a leash, a chain, a word that meant, we get to treat you however we want, and you'll smile through it because we share blood. But I wasn't picking up the leash anymore. Around dinner time, my cousin finally messaged, "Hey, everyone's freaking out. Can we just talk?" That one almost got me. Almost. Because I used to be that guy always saying yes, always being the bridge. But bridges get walked on, and I wasn't a bridge anymore. I was a wall. And walls don't move just because someone knocks. I turned off my phone for the night. No notifications, no guilt, just quiet. I made myself dinner. Something simple. Pasta with too much garlic. Because I finally didn't care what anyone thought. I watched a movie alone and laughed out loud without worrying if it was the wrong kind of humor. And when I went to bed, I didn't stare at the ceiling. I slept. Deep, dreamless, peaceful sleep. The next morning, I checked my email. 36 unread messages. A few angry, a few desperate. One from my uncle. The one who took my money and vanished. "Let's be civil," he wrote. "This doesn't need to go to court." I laughed out loud. Civility. That's what he wanted now? After years of gaslighting, of guilt tripping, of treating me like an ATM with no boundaries? I clicked archive. That afternoon, I got a message from my mom. Short, cold. "I don't recognize the man you've become." That one hit differently. Not because it hurt, but because she was right. She didn't recognize me. The man I used to be, the one who gave and broke himself in half just to keep the peace, that man was gone. And what replaced him was someone who finally understood his own worth. I didn't respond. Not then. Instead, I got in my car and drove out to the lake. The one I used to visit as a kid, back when the world felt quieter. I sat on the hood of my car, watching the sun dip below the trees, and just breathed. No noise, no tension. Just me and the sky. And I thought about everything about the years I spent bending over backwards, about how scared I was to ever disappoint them. I realized how often I confused peace with silence. I thought keeping things smooth meant everything was okay. But the truth is, silence doesn't mean safety. Sometimes it just means suppression. And for years, I'd been suppressing myself, my needs, my voice, my damn identity, just to keep a seat at their table. A table where I was always served last, always expected to be grateful. Always disposable. Not anymore. That week, the legal process kicked in. A few of them tried to fight it, threatened countersuits, sent letters full of big words and empty threats. But they had no ground. The documents were solid, the receipts airtight. Everything had been done by the book. My lawyer friend, who'd helped me piece it all together, called me one evening and said, "They didn't think you'd follow through. They thought you'd crack. But this is airtight." And for the first time in a long time, I smiled. Not a smug smile, not a vengeful one, just relief. The kind of smile that comes when you realize the storm's behind you, and all that's left is the rebuilding. That weekend, my dad showed up at my door. Unannounced. I almost didn't answer. But I did. He stood there, awkward, hands in pockets like a kid caught stealing. He said, "You're really going through with this?" I said, "I already have." He nodded. Looked past me into the apartment like he was searching for something. Then he said, "I guess I just didn't think you had it in you." I looked him in the eye and replied, "That's the problem. None of you did." He didn't say much after that, just turned and left. No goodbye, no apology, just silence. But this time the silence was mine, and it felt good. A week passed after that envelope hit their porch, and I didn't hear a single word. No calls, no texts, nothing, just silence. And truth is, it was the most peaceful silence I'd ever felt. I wasn't waiting anymore, wasn't hoping they'd change. I had done what I needed to do. That envelope wasn't revenge, it was the closure I never thought I'd get. It was proof that I wasn't too soft. I was just holding back because I still believed in family, but not anymore. I started waking up earlier, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. I'd make coffee the slow way, not rushed, just present. I started walking again, taking the long way around the lake near my apartment. That lake, it used to feel like a place I went to escape. Now, it felt like the place where I began again. I remember one morning, crisp air, early sun just touching the surface of the water. I saw a dad with two little girls, laughing, chasing ducks. And for some reason, I just stopped and smiled. Because for the first time, I wasn't thinking about what I'd lost. I was thinking about what I still had time to build. A few days later, I got a message not from them, but from someone who used to be part of that circle. A cousin. He said, "I heard about what happened. Just wanted to say, I always knew you were the only decent one in that mess. and I just sat there staring at the screen, feeling weirdly seen. I didn't reply right away. I let it sit. I wanted to be sure I wasn't falling back into that old pattern of being the one who reaches first, forgives first, fixes first. Because the truth is, they didn't break me by being cruel. They broke me by always expecting me to stay quiet about it, and now that I wasn't, they didn't know how to respond. Or maybe they did, and silence was their answer. But I was done translating silence into guilt. A week turned into 2, then a month. I kept living. And somewhere along the way, I stopped checking my phone for missed calls. I stopped wondering if they'd show up at my door, holding weak apologies wrapped in excuses. I just moved forward. Then one evening, I was having dinner at a small diner, not fancy, just good food in a quiet corner, and an older man sat down a few seats away. We struck up a conversation, nothing deep at first. He said something about his kids living out of state, and I nodded, saying mine weren't far, just not close. He looked at me and said, "Sometimes the blood you think binds you is really just ink on a page. You get to choose who you call family." That stuck with me, hit hard actually, because I realized I'd been chasing something that maybe never existed in the first place. I had wanted them to love me the way I loved them, but love isn't about matching blood or shared last names. It's about showing up. It's about respect, about not making someone feel like they owe you silence for the privilege of being around. A few weeks later, I finally opened the box that held the last of their things. Old letters, photos, little things I didn't throw out yet. I sat down on the floor and looked at everything, and instead of crying, I smiled, because I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't grieving what could have been, I was just remembering it for what it was. And then I let it go. I packed it all in a bag and took it to the local donation center. The box was heavy when I carried it in, but my chest felt lighter when I walked out. I never sent another message, never replied to the cousin, never wrote them letters explaining how they hurt me. Because the envelope I dropped on their porch said everything I needed to say. It said, "I saw you. I trusted you. You betrayed that." And I didn't explode. I didn't scream. I just let the truth find its way to you. And now I sleep better. I laugh more. I sit with people who don't make me prove my worth every time I walk into a room. That's the twist they never saw coming. They thought I'd come crawling back. Thought I'd forgive and forget like always. But I didn't. I forgave, but I never forgot. And forgetting? That's not healing. Healing is remembering without needing revenge. It's knowing the wound existed and no longer letting it bleed. And as for them? Maybe they'll talk. Maybe they'll spin their story. Maybe they'll try to make me the villain in their version. That's fine. Let them. Because the truth is written in court records, in silence, in the peace I carry now. That envelope, it wasn't the end of our relationship. It was the beginning of my freedom.